Good morning, it's Manager Critic Monday, and we're all about helping you get clarity of what you want, the confidence to make it happen by changing the way that you give, receive, and invite feedback. A gorgeous welcome to this week's video, where I'm talking about when is it not a good idea to trust your gut. But before I do that, just a quick overview for those who haven't heard about the do, delegate or ditch system. It comes down to three things. You have to have clarity of what you want, you have to have confidence in the process, and you often have to change the way you give, receive and invite feedback in order to be motivated to take action. And today I want to focus on the clarity part, i.e. making the decision. And over the years of listening to people who are criticizing themselves, they would often say, "Oh, I'm not very good at making decisions," or "I've made a decision before and it's gone wrong." And so I got into this sort of process about 5 or 6, maybe 7 years ago. No, probably 9 years ago now, where we started unpacking and actually being curious. How had they made their decision? And here's where it becomes a bit curious about when to actually trust your gut, because your gut will often talk about, you might hear yourself saying, it just feels really right. And here's the thing about the feeling really right. The more I've asked people what kind of feel is that and what kind of right is that, sometimes it absolutely, that feel right is because it's completely aligned with everything. You know, logically it all makes sense. You know that it's the right thing for you, it's the right thing for your family, it's the right thing for your business. Your heart, it's something you're really passionate about, something you really, really want to do. Your gut is like, it knows that it's going to be good for your health, your well-being, your growth, etc. So sometimes that feel right is a complete alignment of who you are. But sometimes the feel right is because it's a feel comfortable, which means it's because you actually are doing something that's familiar and it's going to keep things safe and the same. And so your gut is, stay here because it's going to keep you small. And only you will know, if you listen to your own inner system, which kind of feel right is that. And so what happens is when we get unsure, what can happen is we get into this pattern of behavior where we either withdraw and we get stuck and we don't do anything, or we talk to lots of people and we get lots of people giving our opinions. And so it's really important that you get the right kind of sounding boards, the right kind of feedback when you're trying to make decisions. And so it's been really interesting this week. As those of you know, at the weekend, if you watch me on Facebook, you'll know I did a wardrobe weed, and I've been working with the lovely coach Lisa Newport. But also at the same time of all that going on, I've got my husband at home who's renovating our downstairs shower room. So we've completely ripped out the bathroom shower that's been there for 20 years. He's been learning new skills. We've been watching YouTube videos on how to do this and how to do that. And then as he's making decisions, he's popping in and chatting. And it's been really interesting because normally when it comes to work, he very rarely talks to me about it because he's part of a team, and so he's got sounding boards at work, and so he very rarely talks to me about work. Whereas I quite often, as a self-employed person who's on my own in the house, if I can't talk to my own coach Leslie, or I don't talk to my PA Tracy, Mark will be my sounding board. And so it's been really interesting just noticing when you're going through that process of doing something that's new and unfamiliar, the value that you get from having a different perspective. And so the other day we were doing something and he was just talking out what he was going to do. And having watched the videos with him as well, I was just noticing things that he wasn't noticing, like where he was measuring was the top or bottom or something. And so having that sort of second person's opinion, it can just help you get that clarity. And so this weekend I was working with Lisa, and what's been really interesting about this gut thing is when I buy clothes, my feel good or feel right is a physical, it feels comfortable. And basically what I was discovering is my decision making process with clothes was it felt great, it felt lovely. Well, it could feel lovely just because it's something new. It could feel lovely just because the fabric is nice and soft. And so that trust in my gut would only be if it feels right, that's great. But then I needed to make sure I looked in the mirror. And two questions I'm having to learn to ask is, does it look great there? Do the lines of the outfit, do the pattern, do they all fall? And this is not about Lisa teaching me what I should or shouldn't do. It's the fact that I've made lots of decisions with clothes where I wear them occasionally, and then every time I put them on afterwards, I just don't feel quite right in it. And what I've discovered is that it looks okay in the mirror because I'm only evaluating that it feels right, trusting my gut. but I wasn't evaluating whether it looked right in terms of where the lines were, whether it accentuated or detracted from my shape. And what would happen, I'd have it, and then if I had a photograph of myself in it, I'd think, oh my God, I don't like that. And so I would lose confidence to, one, wear the item, but two, eventually I got to the point where I started to think, actually, I don't buy any more clothes because I don't actually know how to make the decisions. And so working with Lisa has helped me to understand that the feeling part, right, is a valuable part of it, but I also need to look at it. And then so I get the lines right and the shape right. Then the third thing I need to check in with is and I've forgotten what it is now. There was a third thing. Don't you just hate that when you're in the middle of a video and your brain goes blank? So I've got to check that it feels okay. I've got to check that the lines are there. And that it will go with at least 3 things in my wardrobe. Otherwise, I end up with these sort of, this is a lovely top, but nothing to wear it with, or a lovely pair of trousers. Now, generally speaking, my decision-making model isn't like that because I don't buy clothes that often. Mark and I tend to spend £200 or £300 once a year, and I tend to buy complete outfits. So that part was okay. So I would get the feeling bit, and I'd get the coordinated bit, but I wouldn't get the look in the mirror and make sure it all fits where it's supposed to fit kind of bit. And that's probably from years of being fluctuating with weight from anything from a size 18 down to a size sort of 14. And therefore the feeling quite right is something I kind of perhaps put up with or tolerated, and created a filter and stopped giving myself feedback about whether it looked okay, because I never really felt okay about how I looked. So that's something I want you to think about, your gut feeling is. And one of the things I'm really learning with Lisa is that she, and I talk to my clients about this, is when you get really clear, I tend to work with people about managing their time. If you understand what's happening when you're working at your best, you understand when you're learning at your best and when you're living at your best, when you make decisions about how you're going to use your time, you've got a foundation of what it needs to be like to calibrate against. And that's something that's really working with Lisa. She's helped me create a personal style statement. So I've got words like fun and thoughtful and coordinated. And the fun bit means there's a little bit of detail, something a bit quirky, something a bit different about it. So when I put an outfit together, I can check, does it feel okay? I can check, does it look okay? Does it meet the fun, thoughtful and coordinated? Does it match and coordinate with other outfits, sorry. And when I've got that now as a formula for when I make decisions, it makes it much easier to do it. Because what I've also discovered is that sometimes in the desire to get the fun and the quirky bit, I've actually lost the comfortable. And comfortable is something that's really important to me, that it feels comfortable, that it's almost like I don't feel like I'm wearing it, so I'm not having to keep adjusting things and tweaking things. And so it's when you've got these criteria, whether in my case this weekend I've been learning about my decisions around clothes. My husband's been learning about his decisions about where to cut bits of wood or not cut bits of wood. Or in your case with my clients that I tend to work with, is how to use your time. When you have a formula, when you have your criteria, you know what works for you and what you want to have happen. Then when you are faced with other people's opinions, other people's suggestions, other people's perceptions, when somebody, for example, if someone says, oh, I think you should wear a pinstripe suit, Cheryl, I know instantly that's a really lovely idea, and that's what that would work for them. But I know, because I know myself well enough now, I know what my style statement is, I know that just isn't me. It is, well, it might be if I just did it as occasionally, because that would be a bit fun and quirky. So the outfit might be something I wear as a one-off, but it would be more like fancy dressing up for fun. But it wouldn't necessarily be the look that I would have on a day-to-day basis. So I want to leave you with this thought. You know, the question to ask yourself is, when you trust your gut, what kind of trust is that trust? And just checking in with yourself, is it because you know that this decision is absolutely right, it's aligned with your head, your heart, your gut, you know it's good for your physical well-being, your mental well-being, emotional well-being, financial well-being? Or is your gut saying go with this, pardon me, because it's a safe space, because it's familiar, it's the same as before? So just check in with yourself, because the gut feeling, when you're checking with it, it needs to be because it's aligned, and it's aligned with your formula for making decisions in context of whatever that might be for you, and not just because it's familiar, it's a pattern that's already been known. Because if it's a pattern that doesn't work out for you, you definitely want to stop it and ditch that and not keep repeating it. Hope today's video has been useful to you. I look forward to hearing from you over the week. I'm not here next Friday and following Monday because I'm taking some time off, but I will see you in a couple of weeks' time. Have a great week. Thanks for joining me. Whoever's live today, please put your comments below. I really appreciate it.